At a time when Quebec is facing a major budget deficit, a new study shows how a regulatory model for online gaming could generate significant economic benefits for Canadian provinces like Quebec. Now, Nathalie Bergeron joins us in studio, spokesperson for the Quebec Online Gaming Coalition. Nathalie, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I suspect because you're here, this is all about how Quebec should regulate, encompass private betting companies, gambling companies, sports betting, in order to bring in revenue.
They should. And in addition to the added revenue, it would also increase responsible gaming in the province, so better protect consumers.
Okay, so let's talk about the protecting consumers here, because the more time that passes, the less convinced I am. You've been on this show a few times, and I think the first time we talked, I was like, yeah, we need to do it. Let's just do it. And it seems like not a week goes by, and there's not another bad story involving gambling and sports showing up in the media. It was just yesterday, a former Alouettes player is now suspended indefinitely by the CFL because he gambled on games. What was it a week ago? The Toronto Raptors player, Jonte Porter, suspended for life, gambling on games. Shohei Ohtani's interpreter loses his career. He's tens of millions of dollars in gambling. And I think if the people in the sports can't handle it, regular people have no chance. And the more I think about it, I'm not so sure if we just want to keep normalizing this onslaught of sports gambling. That's where I'm headed, Nathalie.
I think there's a lot of things to unwrap here. So you're comparing consumers to players and athletes. I think that the leagues definitely have a huge responsibility in doing educations with their players. That is something that is underway, but I think that there's always going to be need to continue doing that, and athletes will need to have a better understanding. When it comes to consumer, it is the authorities' responsibility to make sure that they have access to responsible gaming. And yes, gaming can have negative consequences, but that's why we put parameters to make sure that it is safe for people, or as safe as we can make it to be.
See, and that's the thing, because I get that point. I just see if there are people and their livelihoods, their careers, their legacies depend on not gambling on their sport, and they can't control themselves, I worry about just the normal person that can't control themselves, and it hurts their lives. I've heard the people that have lost marriages and their life savings and all the like because of gambling. So it's just these stories that say, oh, geez, we need more controls, not less.
The reality is gaming and, betting has been there forever. It is something that societies have struggled since the beginning of times. And we need to just make sure that we provide the right framework around it. Banning it is never working. Prohibition has never worked in any field ever. It's putting our head in the sand to think that it's going to work if we try to do it now.
So
what we need to do is making sure that we're giving them all the tools to help them control those behaviors.
So I guess your argument here, first and foremost, is economic. Are you trying to say, Quebec, take the money and run? You're missing out on this pie that's going to the black market?
I think the financial opportunity as well as the responsible gaming are of equal importance here. And to me, the responsible gaming is never going to be something that I want to not talk about, because I think it's as important. The province has a responsibility to go and get that money, but also to make sure that gaming is well regulated, but also that responsible gaming is promoted. And right now, the only monopoly we have is self-regulated. How is that making sure that we have the ultimate responsible gaming measures in place?
We're with Nathalie Bergeron, spokesperson for the Quebec Online Gaming Coalition. Okay, let's get to what this study that looks at Ontario, because I guess that probably is the best argument here. What happened in Ontario? Tell us what happened there and how you think it can apply to Quebec.
So Ontario has regulated the market. We've just celebrated the second anniversary. And the numbers in the first year have shown that at a minimum $145 million have been generated by the province. But if we're looking at the context, like all levels of government, they have contributed to $230 million. And that's in the first year of operation. We say in Quebec that we estimate $230 million on an optimal operations year. It is easy to make the parallel.
So one thing when we talk about numbers that have been brought in revenue, right? I wonder where the money's coming from, right? Because let's say it was money that would have been spent on restaurants and now it's spent on gambling. I don't know if that's a net benefit, but if it's money that would have been spent offshore, no taxation, and now it's being brought into our legal framework, now you've got my attention. So when you say $230 million in a year in these benefits, right? Well, where would have that money have gone otherwise?
Well, the reality is online gaming is on the rise everywhere on the planet. It has grown to almost 20% of the market here in Quebec. I think it's something that we can't ignore. And it's not a question of where is it versus where it would have gone. People are playing online. The reality is that people have taken since the beginning of the pandemic to playing and placing bets online. So we need to address that and go with the flow, because you can't put back the toothpaste back in the tube.
In this province, a lot of Quebec operates casinos. They operate scratch tickets and the weekly lotteries that we have. They also have mise au jeu, that's sports gambling. Why isn't that enough? Why isn't the government run option, which everyone in this province can use it, right? I can go make a bet if I want to on mise au jeu. Why is that not enough?
I think that's a good question that is better asked to someone who plays as to where they choose to place on any other operator other than Loto-Québec. But the reality is 3 out of 4 player chooses to do so on unregulated platforms instead of Loto-Québec. That, to me as a business person, what it tells me is that the offering is not meeting the needs.
Okay, so that's another important nugget, right? The amount of money that is being spent on sports gambling in this province, what did you say? And what percentage of the money that is spent on gambling goes to Loto-Québec?
Well, we estimate it's less than 30%.
Less than 30%. So there's that 70% chunk that is going to these sources that Quebec makes no money on.
Exactly.
Okay.
But that the operators are asking the government for the opportunity to contribute and bring back the money.
On safeguards, to wrap up here, what is the group you represent, the Quebec Online Gaming Association Coalition? What are they willing to do to prove we are good actors that want to protect problem gamblers? What are the things you're willing to do on the health and safety aspect?
So it's up to the government to determine which standards, which measures that would go with a license. So the government has every opportunity to dictate what would be acceptable in the market and what would not be. And to obtain a license, the operators would have to agree with that. That's what happened in Ontario. Ontario operators are having the same safeguards as OLG, which is the equivalent of Loto-Québec in the province of Ontario. But in every regulated market where our members are operating, they are playing within the constraints of what those markets have established, whether it's in the Netherlands, whether it's in the UK, in the US. When regulations have been established, they're playing by the book, and that's being audited.
Interesting debate for society in general. I thank you for sharing your viewpoint. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Nathalie Bergeron is a spokesperson for the Quebec Online Gaming Coalition.